Hey y'all, welcome to the Southern Appalachian Herbal Podcast. I'm Judson Carroll and I'm an herbalist. I'm also a wild crafter, a gardener, and herb grower. I'm coming to you from high atop the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, just a stone's throw from the Tennessee line, overlooking the Pisgah National Forest. Absolutely surrounded by the bounty of God's green earth. I spent most of my life wandering these mountains and learning about plants from the old-timers and all sorts of characters. On this show, we'll talk about herbs and how to use them, how to find them, how to grow them, how to make preparations. We'll talk about a lot of things. We can also talk about permaculture, homesteading, foraging, and living off the land. Most anything, really. You can email me at southernappalachianherbs@gmail.com if you have a question or a comment. You can also contact me through the Grow Network, where I'm a regular contributor and a moderator for the forums. And my blog is, of course, southernappalachianherbs@blogspot.com. All right, y'all. I'm going to sit my guitar down and let's talk about herbs.
Hey y'all, welcome to this week's show. We're going to get into a really fascinating herb this week. It is one that I absolutely do not recommend you use, but I absolutely recommend you learn to identify it. It is Conea maculatum. That is also known as poison hemlock. We'll get into many of the names for this plant. You may remember that's what the ancient Greeks used to use, or was it Romans? Socrates, yeah, Greek, used to use to execute people that they actually liked. They would give them essentially a tea, an infusion made of poison hemlock, and the heart would just slowly stop. Not a painful death, actually. Both the Greeks and Romans were far more forceful in killing people they really didn't like or respect. Especially the Romans. But no, the Greeks could be really rough too. Really rough. If you've got a Bible that includes the books of Maccabees, wonderful time to read about the books of Maccabees, by the way. This is the reason they celebrate Hanukkah. I mean, the Maccabees were, they fought for their religion against Greek oppression and terrible tortures of women and children. And I mean, the Greeks may have been all philosophical and portrayed as being really nice, but they were not nice to their enemies. Not nice at all. Definitely take some time to read Maccabees if you get a chance. It's a beautiful story of faith and sacrifice and heroism, both in the battlefield and, in those that just stood up and willingly just became martyrs, just sacrificed their lives rather than betray their principles. But that actually brings me to my announcement of the day. I have a big announcement. I just published my 12th book. Yes, I've done it. This has been such a hard one. I've actually been writing 2 books at once since about April. And this one I really had to get out here by the beginning of December. It's not going to appeal to everyone. I know that. But I'm a convert to Catholicism from Protestantism, and in Protestantism, we have all these devotionals. We have these books, usually written by ministers or Bible scholars, and every day you have an inspirational reading, and they're really good. They really help enrich people's faith and everything. Well, in the Catholic Church, we have daily Mass readings. The entire Bible is read from cover to cover in about a 3-year cycle, and each day there's a gospel reading. Well, I decided to write a reflection on each day's gospel from January through June. And tomorrow I start on July through December. This has been a really hard one. I mean, because I wasn't thinking, I didn't think it through all the way. I thought, you know what, I'll just start writing in July and I'll have it wrapped up by the end of the year. And then it hit me, wait a minute, no. If it starts January 1 with these gospel reflections, people are going to want to buy it in December. So I had to write 2, 3, sometimes 4 a day, especially if I got tied up on something and, missed a day. And then the editing was a great deal of work. Formatting was a great deal of work. But I actually got the thing finished November 30, and submitted for publishing December 1. And it is now live on Amazon.com if you want paperback. If you want the ebook version, you can buy it directly from me. Just go to SouthernAppalachianHerbs.blogspot.com. There'll be a link in the show notes. I'll have it posted on JudsonCarroll.com very quickly as well, at least by tomorrow afternoon. But you can get the ebook from me for $9.99, and I think it would make a fantastic gift. Whether the physical copy or the ebook. If there's someone in your life that would enjoy a Catholic devotional reflection on the daily mass readings, the Gospels in particular, buy my book. It's on Amazon. Should be there in plenty of time for Christmas. If you wait to the last minute, or there's someone that's maybe at a distance, so you're not going to see them in person. I mean, shipping rates are really high these days. Trust me, I've been having to deal with that. Ebooks are a great thing to buy people. Another option is to buy a subscription to my Substack newsletter, because I give free ebooks for that subscription. So if you go to my site, SouthernAppalachianHerbs.blogspot.com, or however you buy the ebook from me, it's going to cost $9.99. I think it's incredibly reasonable for a 330-some page book, obviously. If you just bought a 1-month subscription to really either my Southern Appalachian Herbs newsletter for yourself or as a gift to someone else, or if you bought one for my Catholic newsletter, which is the Uncensored Catholic, that's also on Substack, uncensoredcatholic.substack.com. I'll get you the exact URL. I'll put it in the show notes. But if you did either of those, you can send me an email either saying, this is a gift subscription for so-and-so, and I'd like you to send them the ebook of your choice. Actually, it could be any of my books. It doesn't have to be the new one. Or you could say, I got the subscription for myself, or I got the subscription as a gift, but I want the book for myself. Just email me and tell me what you want. And that would be a 1-month subscription for $8. So you can actually save $2 buying a paid subscription to the newsletter as opposed to buying the ebook. Now, of course, I hope you would get more than a 1-month subscription, but I'm not going to limit it. And if you get more than a 1-month subscription, you get more than one free ebook. Just tell me, one per month. If you bought 2 months, you get 2. If you bought 6 months, you get 6. Just tell me what you want, no problem. I'm really flexible and easy to work with when it comes to stuff like that. But I think, obviously, like I said, this book's not going to be for everybody. I think Protestants will get a lot out of it as well as Catholics. But definitely, if you have a Catholic in your life and you want to give them a unique gift, brand new, announcing it today. No one knows about this. They're not going to see it in a store. I mean, it will be a very special, unique gift you can give them. And if you did give them a subscription to my Uncensored Catholic newsletter, well, they get daily podcasts and such on Catholic topics from religion to politics. Obviously, I don't hold back there. I mean, there's no cussing or anything. It doesn't mean uncensored in that way. It means uncensored is I say exactly what I think, very politically incorrect. Y'all know me, that's how I tend to be. So I'm excited. Whether you buy the book or not, say a prayer for me, wish me well, whatever. I think this is a really, really worthwhile project. And I'll give you the title now. I should have already said it 3 times by now. They always say, say it 3 times for people to remember, but I guess you'll just get it once. All right. It is A Daily Catholic Devotional, Reflections on the Daily Mass Readings, January through June 2024 by Judson Carroll. Like I said, the links will be in the show notes. And you can get it from me, ebook. You can get it from paperback from Amazon. You can get the ebook from wherever you buy ebooks. It's available in every format. I mean, if you have a certain device like a Kindle and you need the Kindle version, I just send it as a PDF. You can absolutely go to BarnesandNoble.com. You can go to, of course, Amazon to get the Kindle version. It's going to be on Apple books and all that. So all my books are. And number 12, I'm very pleased to announce, is A Daily Catholic Devotional, Reflections on the Daily Mass Readings, January through June 2024 by Judson Carroll. As I said, I've been working on 2 books, and I'll probably have another book, one actually on foraging and cooking wild foods in January. So, God willing, I'll get that one finished, and I have a big announcement on that one too. If you gave someone a gift subscription to Southern Appalachian Herbs newsletter or the Uncensored Catholic, you could say, send me a note and say, I think they'd really like that book. And I'll just hold off. And as soon as it's available, oh, what the heck, it's Christmas. I'll give them both. If they want both, hey, y'all buy a subscription. How about if I give one ebook to you and one to someone else as a gift? So that's a good $20 value for about $8. Or I can give someone 2 books. Or if you want 2 books, whatever. Hey, it's Christmas. Time to be generous, right? All right, so now let's get into the recipe for the day. And I promise just a minute from now we'll get into Poison Hemlock. This is one of the most deadly plants on earth. So I really want to tell you, it's interesting. It really does have herbal use, but it's not one you should ever use. It is so easily confused with wild carrot and a few other plants that it's really important if you're going to do any either foraging for wild food or wild crafting, gathering wild herbs, you need to be able to identify wild hemlock and know how dangerous it is and, be real careful, real careful. We'll get into it in just a minute, but I want to go ahead and give you the recipe of the day. Now, it's December, it's cold and rainy, and we've had a little bit of snow and everything. And there's nothing better than hot soup. And the only thing better than hot soup is hot chowder, right? So I really do eat a lot of rich, creamy soups this time of year. I also eat a lot of shellfish. This is oyster season in the Carolinas. I love clams just as much as I love oysters. So I always get a bushel of clams when I get a bushel of oysters if I can. And, the legal harvest limit in North Carolina, at least, is about 3 inches across the shell. So we don't ever mess with those like little, what do they call them, cherry stone clams or such you see up north. In fact, I often find clams about the size of a baseball. Nice, big, meaty suckers, But most of the clams in North Carolina actually are sent up north to make clam chowder, whether it's New England style or Manhattan style. North Carolinians don't eat a lot of clams. It's weird. We have our fried clam strips. It's usually just like an option on a seafood plate, and they're usually about as tough as rubber bands. I would much rather, I like eating clams raw. Seriously, I pop them in the freezer and they'll open a little bit, and then you just shuck them right out of the shell and put a little hot sauce, lemon juice on there, and I love them raw. I love them just the same way I do oysters, raw, of course, or steamed, or smoked even. Yeah, you can smoke them. Wonderful. But I just put them on a baking sheet, pop them in a 400-degree oven. About 10 minutes, I'm ready to eat them because I don't like them cooked through tough. And sometimes, I'll do like maybe a Clam's Casino or something, a little breadcrumbs and bacon and spinach, onion on top of there, Parmesan cheese, and bake them up under the broiler. They're really, really good that way. Clam cakes, I think, are really good. But, clam chowder is, let me tell you just real quick how to smoke shellfish. Whether it's clams or it's oysters, I guess it could be a lot of other things. Mussels, sure. But anyway, you smoke them in the shell. And what you do is you put them on a roasting pan. Okay. There are really 2 ways to do it. You can kind of like roast them and smoke them at the same time, which is what I usually do because I'm going to eat them fresh. You can also do them more like smoked and preserved. So shuck them on the half shell, put them on a cold smoke in that instance, and sprinkle a little salt over there. And they're very, very good, actually. And they'll keep a lot, cold smoked fish. It's salt cured. It keeps a very long time. But normally I do a hot smoke because it's really just roasted oysters with smoke. I put them on the barbecue pit. That's it. Just cook them till they open up. Again, lemon juice, hot sauce, cold beer, and I'm as happy as a clam. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about clam chowder because that is perfect for this time of year. Super inexpensive too. Fresh clams are never very expensive at all. Not in the Carolinas. Maybe where you live. I don't know. If they got to be shipped inland, I have no idea. There's no reason, though, that you have to have fresh clams. You can absolutely use canned clams. And the only difference is those fresh clams have a lot of juice inside of them that becomes sort of the broth for the soup. If you get a can of clams, you're also going to want a bottle of clam juice. Same clam juice you might make a cocktail with or something. So I like to use a big, heavy Dutch oven. for any of these soups, really. Get that going. Chop up some bacon and render it in the bottom till the fat, starts coming out. Scoop the bacon up and reserve it. Chop up about, I'd say, a medium-size onion. I usually just use a yellow onion, or usually just plain old yellow onion, chopped up real fine because I want it to kind of break down in the soup. I like to add a little celery. I think celery just brings out the flavor of just about anything you cook it with. So I'd chop some celery and add it to it. It's totally optional. Some people don't like onions in their clam chowder. I think that's bizarre. I do. Some people think the idea of putting bacon in their clam chowder is weird. I don't. I love bacon. So I'm going to get that going. And then it's a matter of, are you using fresh clams or from the can? If you're using fresh clams, just go ahead and put them in there, put the lid on, turn it to about medium heat. In just a few minutes, they'll open up. You'll hear the juice start hitting the bottom of the pan, and they will make a nice broth right inside there. Cook them a few minutes, pull them out. You don't want them to get too tough. You really just wanted the juice from them. Now, if you're using the canned oysters, you can add it later. Go ahead and put in your clam juice if you're using the canned clams. Don't put the clams in, just put the juice in. Now, we're going to add to that probably a good, it depends on how much you're making, milk. If you didn't have enough clam juice, if you didn't have any clam juice, you can absolutely use chicken or vegetable stock. The clams have a nice assertive flavor. You're not going to think, oh, this is chicken soup with clams, but actually, it's really good. Actually, a little ham broth, you could do that too. Ham and clams go together phenomenally well. Pork and clams just really do match. And then chop up some potatoes and throw them in there and let the potatoes cook through. I would add some parsley, obviously, salt and pepper to taste, and probably some celery leaves because I love that flavor. Then about 10 minutes before you're ready to serve, chop up your clams if you're using from the shell, or add your can of clams. Bring them up to a boil. Don't overcook them. Don't let them get too tough. Serve in a bowl with maybe a little chopped green onion on top and the rest of that bacon, and it's absolutely delicious. Now, obviously, you could use some crackers. I always, I bake sourdough bread about once a week, so I always have some bread that's getting a little stale. I just make my own croutons, and that's one of the easiest things you can do is to make croutons. Cut your bread into cubes, and then fry them in some olive oil with salt and garlic powder and parsley until they're crunchy croutons. That's it. Or you can toss them and everything and do them in the oven. You don't actually have to fry them. You can absolutely do them in the oven. I snack on those often. I just grab a handful of croutons and eat them just like potato chips or something. But, on top of a bowl of soup is fantastic. Because, they're fried in oil, they don't get soggy. So they keep that nice crunch. They'll soften a little bit, but they keep that nice crunch. I guess the only thing is, remember that if you make salty, heavily spiced croutons, it will affect the flavor of the soup. So you would want to kind of even that out. So I think that's it. It's super simple. Usually I can get, I don't know. I don't think I've ever paid more than $6 for a pound of 2 pounds of clams, and that's from a grocery store. So really, they are generally fairly inexpensive, and there's nothing at all wrong with using the canned clams. They probably came from right here in North Carolina, actually. Now, and I remember one option. This I really like. Another thing that clams pair well with, aside from onions and bacon, is corn. Now, I like to, when the sweet corn's in season, blanch several ears and put them in the freezer so I can have it out of season. But it never has quite the right texture and taste. It's really fresh. So making a corn chowder, either this exact same recipe minus clams and just with cut the corn off the cob, fantastic. But the combination of clams and corn, out of this world. You get your sweet corn, you get the rich meatiness of those clams, you get the saltiness of the bacon, and you get the onion, savory, and it's really good. So yeah, I'm going to call this clam and corn chowder, and say you don't have to have the corn, but I would. Now, of course, you can make chowders from just about anything. But it just seems to work particularly well with seafood. I basically do my oyster stew the same way. I'll just kind of keep the oysters raw until the last minute and drop them in, eat them just as soon as they kind of curl up a little bit. You can absolutely do it with shrimp, fish. Fish chowders are fantastic. It's totally up to you. Yeah, it's delicious. It's nutritious. It can be extremely inexpensive, and it'll warm you up on a cold day. It's absolutely delicious, really. And oh, I do need to say one more thing. It has to do with the spoons and such that I carve. Last Monday, a lady got in touch with me and asked me to carve a couple of sets of cherry wood eating spoons to give as gifts to her family members. And I was thrilled to do so. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful she's going to do that. And I worked on it all week, and they should be, you can give them a couple of days to dry and oil them, and I'll probably mail them out like maybe Tuesday, right? That's the thing. If you want to go to my site, go to Judson Carroll Woodcraft.substack.com. Anything that says for sale, it's ready to go. It's already oiled and sealed. Pack it up, put it in the mail. It'll probably be to you very quickly, right? You'll get a tracking number. I really haven't had, it hasn't taken more than 4 days even to ship to as far away as California. But it does, if it's a commission piece, if it's something you say, could you make me a set of cherry wood cooking spoons or anything else? I've done a commission piece that was a beautiful bird-shaped salt bowl. I mean, different things. And you want it there in time for Christmas. I really need you to go and put in those orders now because it takes time. It really does take time to cut and carve and sand and season and oil. And then as the closer we get to Christmas, shipping times tend to get a little longer for the U.S. Postal Service. So if there's a set of something, or if there's a spoon, if there's a specific item you've seen me do before and it's sold, it's listed as sold on my site, if you want one for a gift, please email me as quickly as possible. And I'm not going to take more commissions than I can handle. I don't want anybody to be disappointed on Christmas Day. So if you want it, please go ahead and order as quickly as possible, and I will do my best to get it to you as quickly as possible. All right, so now let's get into Conea maculatum, also known as poison hemlock, California fern, deadly hemlock, Nebraska fern, poison fool's parsley, poison parsley, spotted hemlock, and winter fern, along with the water hemlock and, I don't know, 2 or 3 other plants like hellebores can be pretty toxic. But no, the hemlocks are, aconite certainly, monkshood. Yeah, the hemlocks and monkshood or wolfsbane, these you have to learn to recognize so you don't die. Seriously, it's like when you learn to hunt for mushrooms, the first thing you need to learn is how to identify the poisonous ones. Don't even start trying to learn to identify the edible ones, except, maybe morels, so they're pretty easy. But no, start learning to identify the poisonous ones first. Learn to spot your, destroying angel, your amanitas, I mean, the really scary mushrooms, so you don't mix them up. Yeah, definitely. That's probably the best advice. So, this is the infamous poison hemlock. I mean, it is one of the most poisonous plants known to man. It is easily mistaken for wild carrot. If you get really used to identifying poison hemlock, you will notice there is a difference in the leaf. But wild carrot, if you've grown carrots in the garden, you know what a carrot flower looks like. It's an umbel, a white umbel. It's often called Queen Anne's lace. It's used in flower arrangements and all that. If you ever look closely at a wild carrot umbel or flower, I mean, it's a collection of little flowers, you know what I'm saying, little white flowers. In the center, there should be a little purple flower. That is the surest way to know it's a carrot and not hemlock. I would say, unless you are thoroughly familiar with what wild hemlock looks like and how it does look slightly different than wild carrot, if you don't see that purple flower, do not eat it, do not pick it, just leave it alone. I mean, there's just no sense in taking a chance of it. This one will kill you dead as a doornail. I mean, just seriously. It still causes deaths among inexperienced foragers. Now, wild carrots grow all over the place where I live. I can go out, I can fill up a 5-gallon bucket in the afternoon if I wanted to with wild carrot in just about any meadow. Still, each one, I look for that little purple flower or floret, I guess it really is more of a floret, right in the center. And if I don't see it, even if I know it's a carrot, I'll leave it alone. Because frankly, wild carrots aren't that fantastic. The cultivated carrot is delicious. I mean, it's one of my favorite vegetables. It is light years different from its wild ancestor, which is tough and woody, a little bit more like a parsnip in flavor, more of a survival food unless you're going to prepare, a large pot of soup from it, and it's worth taking the time. You can also pickle wild carrots, but they have to be trimmed up. The woody part has to be trimmed away, and also if you're growing parsley, you know what parsley looks like. Remember, it's also called poison fool's parsley. So it looks a lot like parsley too. So just be very careful. And again, the leaf is different, but the flower very similar. Dioscorides wrote about it, and this is where, okay, it does have traditional medicinal use. And I'm going to tell you about the traditional medicinal use with the caveat, don't ever use it, okay? But, I mean, this is really interesting stuff, okay? He said, this is one of the venomous herbs, killing with its coldness, but is helped by unmixed wine. So there are actually some remedies. I know Michael Moore talked about a plant, and it will not come to me right now, that could be used, another herb that could be used for hemlock poisoning. Wait a minute. No, let me get this. Oh, yeah. No, I remember now. Now, he was in California. He dealt with a lot of people overdosing from methamphetamine and cocaine and such. And he actually used small amounts, very small amounts of poison hemlock to reduce the heart rate. Maybe it would be worth knowing in an emergency, but essentially counteracting one poison with another poison is so very risky, and you're probably going to go to jail for it. Actually, I mean, if you say, well, I tried to help with this by giving him another poison, there you say, well, you just poisoned that person to death. So I don't think it's, don't risk it. I would not risk it. Only is as maybe a very, very last case scenario, worst case scenario. But I don't think so. Now, he said the tops or filaments are juiced before the seed is dry, pounded and pressed out, and thickened by stirring in the sun. Dried, this is very useful in cures. The juice is effectively mixed with pain-relieving eye washes or salves. Maybe it does have some topical use. It's not what I'm going to use. Smeared on, it removes herpes and erysipelas, which is a streptococcal skin infection. The herb and the filaments pounded into small pieces and smeared about the testicles help lustful dreamers and nocturnal emissions. Again, no. No. And let's see. And smeared on, they weaken the genitals. They drive away milk, prevent the breasts from enlarging during virginity, and prevent the testicles in children from developing. Now, why you would ever not want a child's testicles to develop is beyond me. Yeah. Hey, some of those Greeks were weird. There was a lot of funny business going on. Gerard cautions against some of the stranger uses of this herb by the ancient Greeks. Now, Gerard, 1500s England, this is going to be Elizabethan English. I'm going to try to make it a little more plain than it's written. It is therefore a very rash part to lay the leaves of hemlock to the stones of young boys or virgin breasts, and by that means to prevent those parts from growing great. For it doth not only easily cause those members to pine away, but it also hurteth the heart and the liver. In other words, this may have been a practice in ancient Greek for probably perverse reasons. By the 1500s, it was obviously not being used that way anymore, and Gerard cautioned that anyone who read an old Greek herbal and thought, hey, there's a good idea, you'd have to be pretty crazy to think that, but it would also cause heart and liver damage. And he's basically saying it would be absorbed through the skin, for it is one of the deadly poison. Hemlock is a very evil, dangerous, hurtful, and poisonous herb. insomuch that whoever taketh of it into his body dieth remediless, without any way to help them, except the party drink some wine that is naturally hot before the venom has taken to the heart. Remember how Dioscorides was saying with certain wines might be some kind of an antidote? Probably a lot better than mistletoe. Anyway, this he said, Pliny saith, being drunk with wine, the poison, but Pliny saith, being drunk with wine, the poison is with greater speed carrying to the heart, by reason whereof it killeth presently. Therefore, not to be applied outwardly, must less taken inwardly into the body. Absolutely, I agree with that. He said even that the great hemlock doubtless is not possessed with any one good faculty, as apparent by its loathsome smell. Now, that is another way you can identify this plant, is by the smell, but it's very hard to describe a smell. You'll have to have some experience with it before you learn what it smells like, and is therefore not to be used in physic or medicine. Now, Culpeper apparently did find some use for it. And again, this is for information only. Don't ever do it. He said it was very useful for a disease called priapism, 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 painful erection that lasts for several hours. Yes, well, I can see why he would think that. In our time, it's usually caused by overdoses of Viagra and such. So there are much safer remedies than using poison hemlock. Let's just go with that. And he mentions that people were still applying it to the privities or private parts to stop lustful thoughts. But that was very, very, very dangerous and can cause barrenness. It can actually cause infertility. Wow. Amazing what people used to do, actually. He said hemlock is exceedingly cold and very dangerous, especially taken inwardly, but it may safely be applied to inflammations, tumors, and swellings on any part of the body save the privy parts or private parts, and also to St. Anthony's fire. I believe that's basically shingles, as best I can tell. Wheals, pushes, and creeping ulcers that arise of hot, sharp humors by cooling them and repelling the heat. The bruised leaves laid to the brow or forehead are good for the eyes that are red and swollen, and take away a pin and web growing in the eye. This is a tried medicine. I don't think this is going to be safe at all. Again, this is for informational purposes only. But he also says that he references Pliny again, saying that somehow strong wine could help counteract the poison before it strikes the heart. I guess you would have to know immediately you had eaten it and somehow drink a lot of strong wine. I don't know about that. He thought it was even better that to have gentian, which, the bitter herb gentian, put in wine or steeped in vinegar, and that it had actually been proven to cure a woman who had eaten the root. Better not eat the root in the first place. Now, I think Miss Grieve will give us, a little more useful information. So, medicinal actions. As a medicine, Conium is sedative and antispasmodic, and in sufficient doses acts as a paralyzer of the centers of motion. In its action, it is therefore directly antagonistic to that of strychnine, and hence has been recommended as an antidote to strychnine poisoning, and in other forms of the poisons of the same class, and in tetanus or hydrophobia, that's rabies. I could see how it would be useful. It essentially has an opposite effect from strychnine, or hydrophobia, rabies, causes those extreme cramps and elevated blood pressure, but way too dangerous to fool around with. On account of its peculiar sedative action on the motor centers, hemlock juice is prescribed as a remedy in cases of undue nervous motor excitability, such as teething in children, epilepsy from detention, and cramp. I'm not sure what that means. Epilepsy from detention. Interesting. In the early stages of paralysis and in spasms of the larynx, gullet, and acute mania, as an inhalation is said to relieve cough and bronchitis, whooping cough, and asthma. So apparently in the 1930s it was being used medicinally, but I'm sure they don't teach doctors how to use it anymore. And I'm not going to go to an herbalist just because they're giving me poison hemlock. I mean, I don't trust anyone's herbal training to that extent. She said the drug has to be administered with care, as narcotic poisoning may result from internal use, and overdose produce paralysis. In poisonous doses, it produces complete paralysis with loss of speech. The respiratory function is at first depressed and ultimately ceases altogether, and death results from asphyxia. The mind remains unaffected to the last. It's a lot like botulism poisoning, actually. In the account of the death of Socrates, reference is made to the loss of sensation as one of the prominent symptoms of his poisoning, but the dominant action is on the motor system. She means the central nervous system. And at the time, she said it is placed in table 2 of the poison schedule. So one of the most poisonous substances in the use. Hemlock was formerly believed to exercise an alternative effect in scrofulous disorders. Both the Greek and Arabian physicians were in the practice of using it for the cure of indolent tumors, swelling, and pains in the joints, as well as for affections of the skin. Among the modern Baron Storch, the physician Baron Storch was the first to call attention of its medical use, both internally and externally, for the cure of cancerous and other ulcers, and in the form of a poultice or ointment. It has been found very valuable as an application to relieve pain in these cases. In case of poisoning, the antidotes are tannic acid. Okay, that's why that strong wine was recommended by Pliny. Wine is very tannic. Stimulants in coffee, emetics of zinc, you want to throw it up as fast as possible, in other words, of mustard and castor oil. If necessary, artificial respiration. It is essential to keep the body temperature up. Keep up the temperature of the body. Like many other poisonous plants, when cut and dried, hemlock loses much of its poisonous properties, which are volatile and easily dissipated. And she says that cooking destroys it. Now, I have read that by other authors. I don't believe it. Too many people get poisoned mistaking poison hemlock for wild carrots, and presumably they're not eating them raw. So I don't believe it. She said its disagreeable odor has prevented its fatal uses of vegetables in the raw state. That's another reason I don't think people would be eating it raw. She said larks and quails are said to eat hemlock with impunity, but their flesh becomes so impregnated with the poison that they are poisonous as food. Thrushes eat the fruit, but ducks have been poisoned by them. So, wow, be careful eating quail who've been eating poison hemlock, apparently. We don't much eat larks anymore. They're not considered a game bird in America. It's killed cattle. She goes on and talks about that. Now, the American eclectic system of herbal medicine, they did actually use poison hemlock. And I'm going to give you the uses, but again, I'm going to tell you don't ever use them, okay? Hemlock is a narcotic, antispasmodic, sedative, alterative, and resolvent. It is a very powerful narcotic. Now, that doesn't mean it makes you high. It means it stops your heart. It relaxes your CNS system until you die. And when administered in large or poisonous doses, it produces vertigo, dilated pupils, impaired vision, delirium, convulsions, coma, difficulty of speech, tremors, paralysis, and ultimately death. Its modus operandi is not exactly understood. Well, we know how it works now. So I'll just kind of skip ahead a little bit. Remember, this is from the mid-1800s. It is sometimes used as an anodyne and hypnotic in painful glandular enlargements and cancerous ulcers and syphilitic pains, rheumatism, neuralgia, etc. You know, I'm not going to use this plant. But, you know, Culpeper was saying that as well, how it could be, well, Miss Greaves did, all I'm saying, it could be applied externally for severe pains and such. nerve pain and just, pain from the, various causes they were just talking about, syphilis and such, rheumatism, neuralgia, and all that. But Gerard warned that it would damage the heart and liver. So I'm not, there are actually safer plants. In fact, wolfsbane or aconite, monkshood, will absolutely numb out. And it's equally dangerous, but doesn't seem to be have those same external. I mean, I've never read, at least, or I've never been told that it can actually damage the heart and liver the way applying the poison hemlock would. But an even better one is another herb we'll get to into this book, and it's the Datura family. Also very poisonous herbs, not to be taken in internally. They would cause hallucinations and death. Okay, externally, from horse nettle was probably one of the more mild ones. Often been used for scabies and mange and nerve pain, neuralgia, as a soak, a compress on the area. It helps numb it out. Bittersweet would be another one that would be on the very mild side. But Jimson weed, it's really good as for extreme pain used externally. Very, very dangerous and very poisonous. But I want to make clear to you that some of these herbs do have legitimate use. If I'm trying to pick one, though, I'm going to try to pick the least dangerous of these dangerous plants. This is, I think I've said it enough. You got it, right? Yeah, it could also help with enlargement of the viscera, as the liver, spleen, pancreas, mesenteric glands, scrofulous tumors, ulcerated breasts from cancer, testicles, uterus, and other internal organs, if they're ulcerated. But again, that's using it externally, so I don't know how effective that would really be. Indurations of the glands, obstinate cutaneous or skin diseases such as leprosy, herpes, elephantitis, chronic catarrh, that's congestion. That word I can never pronounce. Phthis, etc. And are a few of the numerous diseases for which it has been administered with either palliative or curative action. Palliative just means make you feel more comfortable, basically. So, King's Medical Dispensatory of 1898 tells us how it was actually being used in pharmacies at the time. And this is also the eclectic school. There's a very interesting entry on hemlock, but I must stress that this is very dangerous, once again. Not to be used by an amateur herbalist, and probably not even by a professional. They say under actions, medicinal uses, and dosage, conium is narcotic, possessing, however, properties somewhat similar to those of belladonna. Belladonna is like Jimson weed. Remember, I was just saying that is actually a fairly useful and not terribly dangerous used topically, but I'm still not going to recommend it, even though I have used members of the family topically for pain. Works quite well. On account of the former difficulty in procuring good preparations of this plant, it has not been much used, nor its virtues fully investigated, as with some of its congeners. I don't know what that means. I think plants like it. Congeners. I don't know. The symptoms produced by its use are thirst, dryness of the throat, dizziness, sickness of the stomach, sinking, benumbing feelings, and more or less prostration of the muscular system. If its use be continued or in large doses, the pupil become dilated. There is a general paralysis rendering talking and breathing difficult, with coma or convulsions terminating in death. In about 30 minutes from its administrations, the effects will generally appear and continue from 10 to 40 hours. So if you accidentally were to eat some, you got about 30 minutes to find medical care. And then you're in for 10 to 40 hours of convulsions and coma and paralysis. It is supposed to affect its result by exhausting the nervous energy of the spinal cord and voluntary muscles. There's actually a word for that. It's not coming to me right now. It is used for promoting sleep and will be found extremely useful in allaying excessive action in heart hypertrophy of this organ. I'm not even going to give you the dosage. We have many much safer things to use to put you to sleep. Valerian, ashwagandha, things that won't kill you. Dr. J. Harley considered conium as a depressor of muscular movements, tranquilizing and renovating the whole muscular system, being to the corpora striata, the smaller nerve centers, and the whole of the motor tract, just what opium is to the brain. It depresses the motor function of the third nerve, causing a lazy movement of the eyes, and with imperfect adjustment of the refracting media of the eye. The effects of sedentary and the strong more than the delicate and active, so that its action is influenced more by the muscular activity than by muscular power. It has no pure cerebral effects, but diminishes irritability of the spinal cord without disturbing the sensory functions. It has no direct action on the sympathetic, improves nutrition, and cannot be detected in the urine, breath, or feces. So it was used. He's especially used it for convulsive cough, that is tubercular cough, and tetanic muscular contractions. That's muscular contractions from tetanus. But again, we don't use it anymore. Conium has in times past been lauded in cancer, and while it undoubtedly has influenced growths of pronounced cancerous, it is not known to have affected a cure. The pain of cancer, however, is alleviated by it, and it undoubtedly affects tumors of the mammae, of the breasts. He said it has even been used to check lactation, and showing its effect on the mammary glands especially, but obviously, you don't want it to damage your heart and liver. So, and maybe if you're so, if you need to, how did Culpeper say, apply to the privy parts to reduce lust. Maybe you need some counseling or something. If you're that out of control, that might be good for Hunter Biden or something. I don't know. In consequence of the action of conium on the spinal marrow, it lessens the venereal appetite. That's what we're talking about. And likewise lessens secretion of milk. In neuralgic pains attending carcinomatosis cancer, it usually gives relief, probably from its causing relaxation of the muscular fibers. Sometimes, however, it has exerted no influence whatsoever in palliating them. In scrofula, goiter, and indeed all tubercular affections, it will be found very effectual given in combination with iodide of iron. It enters into the compound plaster of belladonna as an excellent preparation, which Professor King used for many years. Quinine, the active principle, is not extensively used in medicine. Apparently Dr. King thought it was very good for whooping cough and sciatica. You can kind of see that. Dr. Reed used it for toothache. That seems ridiculously dangerous. And they go on just telling you how it was used around 1900. Specific indication use, according to King's Medical Dispensatory, was to relieve nervous excitation and give rest, neuralgic or rheumatic pains in the old and feeble, or whether there are cacoplastic deposits, pain in the stomach, pain of gastric ulcer, nervousness, and restlessness. I think if I need something for nervousness and restlessness, again, I'm going to go with valerian. I'm going to go with ashwagandha, maybe some skullcap, not something that will kill you dead. But in modern use, we don't use it at all. Plants for future makes that quite clear. Medicinal use of hemlock. Hemlock is a very poisonous plant that has a long history of medicinal use, though it is rarely used in modern herbalism. It is a narcotic plant that sedates and relieves pain. The plant contains conine. I think I'm missing a letter in that. Oh, it has two eyes. Coniine, I guess. An extremely toxic substance that can also cause congenital defects. The whole plant is analgesic, antispasmodic, emetic, galactoffusion, sedative. It is a traditional folk treatment for cancer and was formerly widely used internally as well in very small doses to treat a variety of complaints, including tumors, epilepsy, whooping cough, rabies, and to act as an antidote to strychnine poisoning. It is still used externally, usually in ointments and oils in the treatment of mastitis, malignant tumors, especially breast cancer, anal fissures, and hemorrhoids. Because of the extremely toxic nature of this herb, it is seldom employed nowadays. Used with extreme caution and only under guidance from a qualified practitioner. And I would say not at all. But there is a homeopathic remedy. I should definitely point this out. Prepared from a tincture of the fresh plant harvested when in flower, and is used for treating complaints such as dizziness, cough, insomnia, exhaustion, arteriosclerosis, and prostate problems. So that's probably the only safe way to use it is as a homeopathic tincture because it is so very diluted. Under known hazards, it says a very poisonous plant. The toxins are especially concentrated in the seed. The toxins, however, are very volatile and decompose readily, especially when the plant is dried and cooked. The toxins paralyze the respiratory nerves, causing death by suffocation. Children have been known to die after using the hollow stems as blowpipes. Remember that. The poisonous nature of the plant varies considerably, with many people believing the plant is less toxic when it grows in cooler climates. Well, here in the hot American South, definitely don't let your kid use a stem of poison hemlock as a blowpipe. I'm going to say again, you need, if you're going to do any gathering of herbs in the wild, you need to learn to recognize poison hemlock. There are even various stages of growth where angelica and poison hemlock could be mistaken for each other. There are so many of these umbelliferous plants look very similar. So, that's it. Don't use it, but learn to identify it. And, at the very least, all the lore and interest of this plant is very useful to know when someone says, oh, herbs don't do anything, well, actually, yeah, some of these herbs are incredibly potently powerful. Some, in fact, quite poisonous. And anyone who would say something so stupid should be told about things like poison hemlock, but also digitalis. Digitalis is another herb that is a very useful heart remedy. When now they use synthetic, they used to use very specific herbal doses of it, but also a poisonous plant. Don't let your kids eat digitalis. So anyway, y'all, that's it. Have a great week, and I will talk to you next time. Go eat some chowder.
The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, for your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.